All right, I think we are just about live. All right, sorry about that slight delay. That's why we've got multiple people helping with this. All right, excellent. All right, Jenna, whenever you're ready, feel free to go ahead and begin.
All right. Well, we are here from Columbia Springs. We're excited to kick off the presentations today. Oh, it's not letting me, I think I lost the ability.
Yeah, you should be able to get it back. You just need to double click on the screen again. There you go.
Okay, cool.
And now you can use your arrows. Sorry about that.
Thank you. All right, so we're here from Columbia Springs, and I just want to say hello from our hosts. My name's Jenna. I'm the education coordinator at Columbia Springs, and we also have Catherine Corey here, who's our executive director. All right, so who is Columbia Springs? We are an environmental education center located in Vancouver, Washington, and our mission is to provide a unique setting where educational experiences foster a greater awareness of the natural world and inspire stewardship. So we connect with about 20,000 people every year. Our site is really unique. There's really nowhere else like it. It's urban, it's in Vancouver, but it's 100 acres, and it actually surrounds a historic trout hatchery. So in the middle of the site, students are able to actually see fish rearing activities, and then the 100 acres surrounding it are filled with forested hiking trails, lakes, streams, natural spring water, and lots of plants and animals and mushrooms that call the property home. So you get that really immersive, I'm in the woods feeling. You can't see it from this map, but just south of our property is the Columbia River. So students are right there in the Columbia River watershed. So our program is the Connecting Youth to the Columbia River Watershed Outdoor Science and Nature program. Some of the highlights here are that we aim to serve 6,000 students every year with the program. And when the students come to the site, they're outside all day. Something that really sets us apart is the strength of our partnerships, which allows us to serve students in a really equitable way and also provides really solid foundation for the program's longevity. And then with this grant, we are going to be launching a paid internship program to better support students. So once we get those 6,000 students to the site, they're having a really incredible and transformative experience. So the Science and Nature Field Trip program really has three main goals. The students are with us for one day, and what we're hoping to accomplish is that students feel like science is really fun. So they're, they've got a net in their hand and they're scooping macroinvertebrates out of the wetland, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is science. This is amazing. This is so fun. So that's our first goal, is just to light the spark. Our second goal is that at the end of the day, students feel like they have been successful scientists. So not only do they feel like, oh, science is really fun, but they walk away feeling like, wow, I did that. I can be a scientist. I was really successful. So that comes down to how we design our programs, how we train our team to be really inclusive, to make sure there's multiple ways for students with different learning styles and different learning needs to feel successful as scientists. And the last goal that we have is to make sure that students feel like nature feels like somewhere that they belong. So this is the one that I get most excited about, is making sure that when students come to our site, even if it's their first time going on a hike, that they walk away feeling belonging, that they feel welcomed, that they felt safe, that they felt supported, so that the experience they have on site really sticks with them in a really in the heart kind of way. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit more in depth about the program. The youth experience can really be summed up as memorable outdoor learning. So the students are outside with their peers all day. They're hiking, they're engaged in student-led investigations, they're hands-on, like I said, turning over logs, they're hands on a net, they're digging into the wetlands, and they're learning about the interconnected ecosystems and their role in the ecosystem. The 6,000 students that we serve annually means 24,000 hours of time spent outside. So 24,000 hours not in front of a screen, not in the classroom, 24,000 hours outside exploring. And then our program also has pre and post materials so that teachers can go back into the classroom and expand on that memorable learning. So this is an expansion of an existing program. So we want to build on the success of a current program by making it a more transformative experience for students by addressing some equity issues and by making sure they see themselves represented on our staff. And we'll be evaluating the success of the program through teacher feedback and also with numbers with enrollment in the program. Something that really sets us apart is the strength of our partnerships with the school districts. I really work super closely and our team with the science curriculum coordinator. So we make sure that everything we do is completely dialed in with what teachers are doing with their next generation science standards in the classroom. So we're using the same language, we're using the same approaches so that students really see what they're doing on site as an extension of the learning that's happening in the classroom. Representation matters. It's important that students see themselves represented on our team. And we're going to be working with this grant to make sure that our team is recruiting interns from the community, interns that are traditionally underrepresented in the sciences, who have an opportunity to get paid to do the quality work of connecting youth with nature.
Let's talk impact. Our grant funding through these funds is roughly half of our budget, but we also have secured over 50% of matching funds over the next 2 years. And our funding goes directly to the program. So 98% of the funding that we receive goes directly to paying our educators and our interns so that we can make sure that the impact of the funds is the greatest. We only have about 2% that's spent on overhead and supplies. We can't talk about our programming without talking about the pandemic because it is pervasive in our lives. So in response, initially, we shut down all in-person programming, but beyond that, what we've done is create really flexible and innovative virtual programming that's supportive of what we do so that we can continue to use it in the future. So it now is part of our pre and post programming. And as restrictions ease, we have been doing small cohorts of students, and we will continue to do that in partnership with school districts as their metrics change as well.
All right, I want to talk a little bit more about who the youth are that participate in the programs. So as I mentioned, our strong district partnerships allow us to serve 6,000 students. And what's critical about that story is part of that 6,000 is every single 5th grade student in 42 elementary schools in Vancouver, Washington. So we're not just serving the teachers who are excited and opting into a science field trip, or the schools who have extra resources to think beyond, just the classroom instruction. With our district partnerships, we serve every 5th grade student. So there is no child left inside. And that's really important because we really need these students to be engaged in sciences. We need all students engaged in science. So there's a lot of barriers to outdoor education. And over the last decade of working in outdoor education, getting students to the site is always one of the biggest. So our district partnerships allow us to eliminate that barrier. They completely cover transportation. The second challenge with outdoor education is making sure that once you have students on site and participating in a program, that it's hitting them and meeting them where they're at. So our team focuses a lot on inclusive curriculum, making sure that we have accommodations for students who have mobility issues so that they can participate, making sure that we have instruction that meets the needs of English language learners. That's our job, to make sure that once they're there, that our curriculum works for them. The demographics of our students are here on this slide. They're very diverse. So 45% of our students are students of color, half are eligible for free and reduced lunch, and then 14% are English language learners and have physical, cognitive, or emotional disabilities. And the diversity in the number of English language learners is increasing every year. So our population is diversifying in Vancouver. So I'll end my part of the slideshow with this quote from a teacher. The hike around the lake was a huge hit. So many students had never been on any kind of hike before, and they were enthralled. And I hear this kind of message from teachers all the time, and I see it in students' faces. When they come to Columbia Springs, this is the first time that they've had a chance to experience something like this.
Thanks, Jenna. So we have stable partnerships that make our work possible. And part of that is the longevity of 21 years of strong partnerships with these and many other organizations. Clark College, Vancouver Public Schools, and Evergreen Public Schools all sit on our board and participate in our education program as part of a committee. This allows for collaboration and resource sharing and open communications direct with districts. Washington State Parks shares a strong commitment to conservation, and we have a shared historical connection to public land. These are our longest partners: Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife, Clark Public Utilities, and the City of Vancouver. Each of them also hold a board member seat and continue to collaborate with us, not just with their dedication and their time, but also with dedicated match, both in funding and in in-kind resources. We support our education programming with over 1,000 hours of dedicated, trained volunteers that come out on repeat each year to help support what we do. Now, the big question is, how do we keep doing this beyond a grant funding? It's a good question. We have this really great partnership with so many different community organizations that view our success as their success. And so this grant funding will allow us to pilot a program and to really show them that this is what we can do, this is who we are, this is how our mission is fulfilled. And in doing so, because their success and our success are so closely tied, they're going to continue this funding beyond the grant program to make sure that what we do continues to grow and expand with our community. So what's great about this program and what really drew us to it is this connection with state parks. And we have a really unique connection with state parks with a very specific place, which is Beacon Rock. So our site and Beacon Rock were both originally part of the Biddle estate owned by Henry J. Biddle, who was a regional conservationist and philanthropist of the area. And he worked very hard to make sure that Beacon Rock could be an amazing place where the public can go and see something as amazing as this, monolith out in the gorge. And it's not something you see very often. And so we're partnering with state parks to make the connection of our conservation story, which is part of our orientation for all of our education programming, and bring that commitment and show that conservation is something that's shared in the region and that students can be part of that conservation commitment. So we'll be going to state parks as a staff and touring Beacon Rock to work with park staff and making sure that we can collaborate on how to best tell the story of Henry Biddle. And it's 20 minutes down the road. So this is a place that students can go with their families. It's a place that we can provide like an opportunity to say, you loved what you saw here in this urban nature area, and now there's this amazing space in the gorge just down the road. And it's a place for you to go and belong and see that you are part of this conservation story. It's a really amazing connection. So we're really excited to keep it going. And we want to know if there's any questions that we can answer for you about our programs, about our partners. It is open for you.
Great. Thanks so much, Jenna and Catherine. Great job. And see, going first, no problem. Very well prepared presentation. So thank you for being so concise on all the criteria. All right, questions from the panel. I see I have one hand up to start. We're going to go to Melinda Posner with Washington State Parks first.
Morning, thank you. Wonderful to hear. I want to go right now. My question is about managing non-English speakers. You mentioned how that is something you do address, and that diversity of all kinds of folks is increasing in Vancouver. I'm curious about how that works on the ground. Do you have interpreters? And then how does that integrate? You know, how do the students integrate with each other in that kind of environment?
Awesome. Thanks, Melinda. That's a great question. So we don't have interpreters that come to our programs. What we actually did was we partnered with the English Language Learner Department with our school districts, and we did multimodal training. So the same training that teachers get in the school districts for providing instruction to English language learners who are integrating into their classrooms. So what that means is when you're teaching a program, you're making sure that multimodal instruction is happening, which means not only am I telling you the instructions, but I'm providing visuals, I'm providing written language, and I'm modeling the behavior. And then we have all of our written materials translated into the number 1 and number 2 languages spoken by students, which is in our community, Spanish and Russian. So then they have the written documents as well.
Wow. Great, thank you.
Great, thanks, Jenna. Steve, did you have a question?
Just wondering if you could go back to slide 20, I think it was.
Yeah, and I'll bump it back there quick for you.
I just wanted to look at those numbers. I think maybe 21 or 19. I'm not sure.
19 was the demographics.
That one, yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Raina.
Great presentation, everybody. I was just wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about the commitment of dollars that you have for sustainability of this program. You mentioned that that you have some that there's some sustainability components there, but do you have financial commitments from other groups that are in the form of like dollar amounts to help you continue this program, or is this? How does that work for you guys truly?
That's a great question. Thank you, Raina. So the partnership that we have with organizations like Clark Public Utilities in the City of Vancouver is more than just members of our board, but they're long-term partners. They've been funding us since our inception 21 years ago. And so they're really committed to seeing us succeed. And as we put equity into the forefront of what we do in order to sustain our mission, they want that to continue. So this is like a pilot for them to see, can you do it? And if you can, yes, we're going to fund you. So it's a continuation of this work.
Thank you. That's awesome and really cool.
It's cool.
We're lucky.
Thanks, Raina. Kelly.
Hey, good morning. Very nicely done in the presentation. Can you explain a little bit to me about the internships? I'm looking at the proposal in the PRISM, and I'm a little confused by their hours and who they are and how you get them.
Yeah, so this is really going to be a new endeavor for us. We've had interns in the past, but like many organizations, we had, unpaid 4-credit interns kind of in an ad hoc fashion. What we're aiming to do with the support of this grant is actually working with our partners at Clark College who run a MESA program, which is a program to support underrepresented students in the sciences. By partnering with them, we want to provide paid internships for students to make them more accessible for more variety of students to be able to attend, and then actually make sure that the opportunity of the internship is being presented to students who aren't just on their own seeking us out, but that we're really putting the opportunity in front of a more diverse audience. And then making sure that we're paying people for the important work that they're doing.
Okay, so these are college students specifically.
Yeah, it's not a requirement that they would be enrolled in credits, but we'll be working with our Clark College partners, and they support students who aren't all like formally college students as well.
Okay, great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's see. Chris, I see your hand is up. Welcome, Chris. Oh, Chris, looks like you're still muted. Oh, there you go.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Perfect.
Okay. I have a quick question about just like what steps have been taken to incorporate environmental justice in your curriculum. And then my second question is whether your partnerships include like working with the tribes that call the Columbia River area home, and just like what type of work that y'all have been doing around that.
That is a great question. Thank you. So we are sort of in the baby steps of expanding what equity means for us as an organization. Certainly, it's part of our mission to, bring as many people as we can to appreciate what we do in our site. But we're looking at removing those barriers. So, things like transportation and language are low-hanging fruit for sure. But we also have a commitment to partnering with our communities to make sure that we are incorporating environmental justice. So one of our newest partners is Love is King, which is an organization that works on getting historically marginalized communities into the outdoors and to say that this is a safe space for them to be, and that we welcome people of every background and every possible walk of life to be part of our site. And so through that work, we are making a commitment to environmental justice and making sure that everyone feels welcome. And for tribes, we have had a funding partnership with tribes. And over the last couple of years, we've been really working with Cowlitz and Chinook to try and expand that partnership. So since about a year ago, I've been engaging in conversations with both of those tribes individually, but also with the Confluence Project, who has history in that kind of relationship building so that we can make meaningful commitments to one another and so that our site can be seen as a space that truly is oral. Does that answer your question?
Great. Thanks so much, Chris. Confluence Project, former NCLI grant recipient, actually, a few grant cycles ago.
Great partners.
Yeah, great organization. All right. It doesn't look like any final questions from the committee. Oh, we do. Jamie. Oops, Jamie, you're muted. Sorry.
Always gets me. The dongle gets me every time. Great presentation. Thank you so much for your time and energy in this presentation. I'm curious to know a little bit more about the pre and post materials that you mentioned, about how we're continuing the conversation with students before and after the site visit.
Yeah, awesome. So this is something that for me is really exciting, and it comes back to our partnerships with the district. So we actually built our program content around the units that the 5th grade students are teaching. And so they have a whole 3-month-long ecosystem unit, and our goal is to then go in and meet with the teachers. Hey, what are you struggling with, like landing with the students? What are the things that you really want us to knock out of the park for them, and so we work closely with the teachers and take those elements. And so on our site, it looks a little different for each teacher. Some teachers will come at the beginning of the unit and it'll kind of be a launching off point. Some teachers will come kind of in the middle, and then some teachers actually prefer coming at the end. So it's like all the things they learned throughout the school year, they come to Columbia Springs and they're like, hey, remember when we learned about decomposition, or remember when we studied that? Like, here it is, turn that log over, it's happening right there. So it looks a little different for each class, but it really comes back to those district partnerships and working with the coordinators to be an extension of the classroom learning.
Awesome, thank you.
Great. And we got time for one quick one, Melinda.
Yeah, it's really, I saw in the introduction, one of you is a skilled chicken wrangler. And I just want to know, what is that about?
What do you mean? So aside from running an awesome environmental ed organization, I own a farm and I raise heritage breed chickens, which are not docile. So I sometimes have to chase them around the 34 acres that we live on. So wow. I'm fairly skilled at it. It's been a talent I've developed over the last 10 years.
Oh, very good. Thank you.
And then she can bribe staff with farm fresh eggs too. So
added bonus.
Added bonus. Nice.
All right, well, thank you so much, Jenna and Catherine. It was great having you this morning, and great job.
Thank you
very
It was
much.
so fun. Come visit us sometime.
All right, moving on to our second project, only a little bit behind schedule. We'll catch back up. I believe we've got Carol, is it pronounced Carolina?
Carolina, if that works for you, but in English, Carolina's okay.
Carolina or sorry.
Carolina is, I'm from Brazil. I'm a Brazilian immigrant. So Carolina is how we say it in South America, but Carolina.
I will do my best, Carolina. All right, and let me pull your presentation up here. All right, you should see your presentation now, I believe. Do you see it on?
I see it, but for some reason, the font I use on your end is not, oh my gosh. Okay, so it's been translated by your PowerPoint to another font, which has it large and potentially has, yeah, so now all the slides, none of it fits in the slides. What can we do?
Here, let's see what we can do. Just hold on a moment.
I mean, I have the presentation here and can share my screen, but
yeah, why don't you pull yours up right now? And you don't have any video in your presentation, correct?
No video.
Okay. So yeah, why don't you pull the one up, because that's the one that we pulled out of Prism, that you attached into Prism.
Yeah, and what I just realized is apparently if you don't have the font in PowerPoint on your end, it just used it. Yeah, that's no good. Okay, so.
All right, so I'm gonna stop my share.
Okay.
You can go ahead and do a share on your end.
Yes. Host has disabled participant screen sharing.
We will enable that here. If you go to screen share and the caret, I don't know if I.
Okay, I'm just going to do all the dismiss for now. It should work.
Oh, let's see. Do you have it enabled now?
Yes.
Okay.
So let me know if you can see it. Are you able to see?
We are.
Excellent.
And it
So,
should, I think it's just loading up right now.
excellent.
Well,
So I'll go to,
yeah, if you want to go to the present mode.
yes. Yeah, so that's the original size of the fonts. I'm sorry that happened somehow in translation. Just let me know when you'd like me to start. I'm actually.
Yeah, so you've got 15 minutes for the presentation. That'll be followed up by 10 minutes for Q&A. We do have reminders once you get close to that 15 minutes. We'll give you 2 minutes remaining. You'll see a video pop up with a little card there that shows you 2 minutes remaining. Because we do want to make sure we give the advisory committee that 10-minute block for Q&A. As you heard in that last presentation, there's really good questions that'll come out. So you'll be able to explain a lot more about your project at that time. Okay?
Yes, sounds good. I'm going to start a stopwatch on my end too.
All right.
Thank you, Kyle.
Feel free to go ahead and begin whenever you're ready.
Thank you. So I'm sorry about whatever tech issue we just had, but once again, our organization is called CULTURESEED. My name is Carolina Pfister. I'm the executive director. We're a small organization located in Southwest Washington in the Columbia Gorge region. CULTURESEED is the only organization in our region that's offering year-round outdoor immersion and outdoor mentorship for historically underserved and or low-income youth. Our mission is to provide support for our underserved youth and communities to thrive through year-round connection to nature, self, and others. The way we look at our outdoor immersion is that access to the outdoors is a social determinant of health. Social determinants are the conditions in which the opportunity for thriving and for health are existent or non-existent in your life. And finally, access to the outdoors is now considered a social determinant of health. Our flagship programs, our cornerstone programs, are outdoor immersion and outdoor mentorship. Our outdoor immersion is starting in 8th grade through high school. Youth are with us and return year after year. The official name of the program is kind of a mouthful, year-round outdoor and engagement youth cohort. We have a cohort in Klickitat, a cohort in Skamania, an emerging juvenile hall cohort that's serving youth from both sides of the river. And all the cohorts have peer circles weekly, which is where we work in a deeper way, the mental health components of our program. We also have an LGBTQ+ circle for youth who would like to sit in that circle. Our outdoor mentorship actually started during the pandemic, because in the beginning of the pandemic, we realized that a lot of the youth that we serve, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to interrupt myself and like find a place to put our little video, because I feel like I'm talking to no one. Here, that's better. Our outdoor mentorship started in the early days of the pandemic. A lot of the youth that we serve are just stuck in their homes with a lot of anxiety, and it occurred to us that if we could match youth to some of the caring adults in our community, that they could meet youth at their front door and just go for a walk. And the support was overwhelming. So many adults signed up. We were able to match all the youth in our cohorts and then open it up to community applicants through the partnerships that we have with 2 of the school districts in the area. So now we're opening it up to start in 7th grade through high school. Once youth graduate from our programs, they can return as junior guides, which is the opportunity to gain on-the-ground experience in outdoor leadership. So they work with us in the summer, or join our Emergent Youth Council, which is an opportunity for youth to be immersed in the experience of advising organizational strategy. And as an executive director, I'm always trying to find how is it that to be a youth-led organization is not a tokenistic experience. Like, how can youth really affect the programming and the culture of what we do? Because we do this for them. So the framework for how we do our work, we call it a whole circle approach, and our methods are long-term contact above all. I've been with the organization since 2018, and I was attracted to the work when I moved to the Columbia Gorge because of my colleagues Kay Alton work in these camps that she would do, these immersive camps that would be outdoors with mindfulness components for underserved youth in the region. And we both started talking about our work with this demographic and saying, you know, it's too bad that we only get a week with them. And then we asked ourselves, but why? Why not be in relationship with them through high school? And we slowly switched the program around to that, which is a difficult model because it's qualitative, definitely not quantitative. But that is able to engender the trust that we need to work with underserved youth, with youth who often have experienced a lot of trauma. So only through long-term contact do we build that trust. We are very adaptable and nimble, also because we're very small. So we get to respond and meet youth where they are. Experiences of connection is at the heart of what we do, connecting youth to their community, to each other, and providing the tools for mental health. And then the outdoor immersion is just the framework for the program. We believe that all of this work is done in nature, in movement. The outcomes are connection to nature, self and others, diversity in the outdoors, and economic opportunity as we plug youth into the outdoor industry of our region. This is a mentor with her mentee, Kota. This is a circle before a mountain biking outing. We circle up before outings, after outings for peer circles. That's how staff meets. Mentors have become this amazing resource to actually get youth to outings, to help youth with a lot of the barriers that we had struggled with in the past. Located on 150 acres at the confluence of Buck Creek and the Wild and Scenic White Salmon River, which are the ancestral lands of the Chinook, the Yakima, the Wasco, and the Wishram. We're able to be on this land because in our community, the people who own this land gave us very generous, synergistic kind of partnership opportunity to utilize their infrastructure. So a lot of the programming happens on-site and off-site, but we do have a community garden, a forest camp, and a collaborative workspace. This is the lower white salmon, a rafting trip that we did. And NCLI funding supports a 2-year expansion of our existing flagship programs of outdoor immersion and outdoor mentorship. We'll increase the number of youth in the current cohort, which is the Klickitat one, sustain the current development of the 2 new cohorts, which are in Skamania and the juvenile hall cohort, and expand outdoor mentorship. Our initiatives are, sorry, I feel like I'm going fast because I'm looking at the stopwatch, so I appreciate your grace as I kind of run through this. Our community partnerships are at the heart of what we do as well. We always say that CULTURESEED is village work. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. Outfitters and sports facilitators, camps and providers of gear, mental health professionals, facilities and food are all provided through partnerships, most of it at least. And we also like to show up for a community as an alternative to incarceration. We're working with probation officers in Klickitat to understand how we can be a community service hour alternative. We call it meaningful community service hours. We've done this with 2 youth already, and that youth can come to CULTURESEED in lieu of going to our local jail in the Dalles. And we have been able to do that twice already as well. Each district has its own set of subtleties in the criminal justice system, and we're a small team, but we're working alongside judges and probation officers to be a vibrant part of that disruption of that pipeline. We also work with the families of the youth we serve. We can't work with youth if their families are in distress, and a COVID-19 emergency relief fund that started during the pandemic was an informal effort that we already had to provide direct relief as needed if referrals and other agencies can't. It's been wonderful to be able to provide stipend, not stipend, the checks that came from the government to families who didn't receive them. And we also activate our community for direct support as needed. If somebody needs a bicycle or if we need a backyard to circle up in for our peer circles, our community shows up. And we also create paths to opportunity for the youth on an ongoing basis. Oh, goodness. An outing, here's a partner who provides us stand-up paddle boards. And the number of youth served over the next 2 years, the program expansion will allow us to serve 96 unique youth, which is an 174% increase from the current total number of 35 youth. Again, our program is qualitative. Amount of hours each participant will spend outdoors, 399 hours a year per participant. So how is that calculated? In our outdoor immersion, youth average 15 hours a month outside through 10 months of programming, plus 168 hours, give or take, for the summer adventure, which has been backpacking. This summer, it's going to be a rafting trip. Outdoor mentorship is an average of 4 hours a month outside year-round, 12 months a year. And then our junior guides come back in the summer for an average of 33 hours working with us. How do we measure success? 100% high school graduation rate so far seems to be an easy metric to measure. No relapse in the criminal justice system, no recidivism, completing a full year of programming, youth return the following year, and mentorship matches are 100%. Other indicators that are more qualitative through pre and post programming surveys are to see if youth can track and increase awareness of how thoughts, emotions, and behaviors are connected, which is something we work on both in the outings and in the peer circles, and that youth are able to name 3 caring adults and 3 strong peer relationships, that they're building a support system, and that they have increased confidence in accessing the outdoors and their own physical ability. Staff representation of the staff and independent contractors. We're all 100% bilingual with varying degrees of comfort levels, but we all speak Spanish. The Columbia Gorge is 20% Latinx. It is mostly the BIPOC presence in the school districts that we serve, but there are also Native American youth in foster care, which we usually have a small percentage of in our program. Of the core staff of 5, 3 of us are Latinx. Of the independent contractors, 3 total, 2 are Latinx. Our youth council are 4 Latinx young women who graduated from our programming. Latinx woman is board chair and an outdoor leadership ambassador. We acknowledge the disparity in business owners and decision makers and those in power in our community, and we try to recruit and hire and train a diverse staff and volunteer base as an effort to combat this inequity. Here's our new outdoor programs director, Aznolu Benitez, who comes with a lot of experience in outdoor ed and is really stepping up our curriculum in terms of outdoor education. We've always been a place-based organization trying to create that connection and ownership and stewardship, but Aznolu's really bringing in some beautiful elements, a little bit more of our staff, Juan, Des, Miguel, Yasmin. Here's a partner in bouldering, Juan taking some of our youth to get ready for an outing. Whew, and our budget. So what we propose for NCLI are direct programmatic expenses. So from March to February, which is our fiscal year, a 2-year span of programming. So we're asking for 20% of our personnel that are directly related to our programming, 100% of the stipends that we pay to youth, transportation, and we're bringing in a match of mentor in-kind hours. I wanted to tell you that our mentor in-kind hours, as they are right now, let me see if I could easily find it. Our current total value of mentorship volunteer in-kind hours for current programming is over 137,000. So it was a pool of match resources that was easy to pull into the grant. So we're requesting 127,000 total. So now I'm going to switch to the youth criteria. All the slides before this, I should have reminded folks, were about the program and the organization. So all the slides ahead of this are going to be youth until I let you know when I'm switching criteria. Just a little bit of data on our region, which isn't the easiest data to find. It was a Columbia Gorge Regional Health Assessment in 2016. 1 in 3 in the Columbia Gorge have trouble paying for basic needs. 1 in 3 have a mental health condition. And more than half of our Latinx population has trouble paying for basic needs. Lower income populations are less likely to feel they have support systems. So the youth that we serve in the Columbia Gorge are 12 to 18 years old and beyond because they return to train with us. They're currently 88% BIPOC, an average of 80 to 90% BIPOC over the last 3 years of programming. All of them qualify for free and reduced lunch, and 69% have a mental health diagnosis. I should have written mental health diagnosis. So NCLI had a question about disability, and we don't ask youth if they consider their mental health status a disability, but we count an official diagnosis as a disability. The main barriers, especially in a rural area with a lot of economic disparity, is transportation and isolation, but there's also years of untreated mental illness, anxiety, incarceration, familial distress. Here's Cynthia, who was matched with a mentor, and this is a photo of her walking. I'm gonna have to move quickly because now we only have 2 minutes left. So let's move on to our partners. And this is bouldering gear from our partner, ski gear from Meadows, another partner. I leave you this slide with a big list of community partnerships and public partnerships existing. CULTURESEED is village work. It's our ethos. We do partner for everything that we do. Coney Ranch, where we take our youth once a year. So the criteria of sustainability, I just wanted to share that we maintain an active grant calendar. We nurture existing funding relations, we'll nurture established partnerships and foster new partnerships. But I also wanted to add that at current programming, we've already secured our funding for this year, and we're halfway to securing the funding for next year. We have 2 multi-year grants right now, and I can share more of that calendar if there are questions about it. And finally, public lands, the last criteria. So we're located right there at where the white salmon, and then we have Skamania County in this map, Klickitat County. We don't go as far as Goldendale yet, but we have youth through the probation officer effort that will do community service hours with us through our conservation partners, which is a new development. So stewardship community service hours, long-term, that sometimes can turn into internships and even employment over time. We explore Washington state parks in the Columbia Gorge region all the time, year round with our youth. We've been to all the state parks, and also we recreate with youth in the Gifford Pinchot National Forest, for example. This is a backpacking trip around Mount St. Helens. And I just wanted to leave you with this thought that access to wilderness is a necessity for our well-being, and that wilderness is a necessity for our survival. Thank you. Sorry to rush so much.
You made it. I was a little worried there when you're on criteria 1 with only a few minutes, but you made it through. Thank you, Carolina.
Yeah.
All right, questions from the committee? Let's see, we're going to start with Chris.
Thank you. That was a great presentation, and I really appreciated the part about working with judges and probation officers on kind of ending that school to prison pipeline and trying to find ways to get youth into other pathways. Could you go into a little more detail about partnerships and whether it's primarily you get in-kind donations from them, or do you have other programs that you collaborate on with partners? Because we kind of you went over it pretty quickly just because of the time constraint.
Yeah, and I can open that slide again, but so basically our community partnerships are, there's a wide variety. They're both for the outings to show up with the gear and support for the access to the specific sports opportunities that exist in the gorge that have high levels, high barriers of entry. So just the fact that we don't pay for the gear that oftentimes we can utilize, even the transportation and the facilitators that come with the outfitters, is a big partnership for us. But we also have partnerships that provide in-kind hours for mental health professionals. We have partnerships for space, for camps. I don't include our funders in the category of partnerships, but for example, the Columbia Gorge Forest Service is a funder and a partner. So there is some crossover. With the Columbia Gorge Forest Service, we're working on creating internship opportunities that allow the youth to also have support from within Forest Service to then try to get a job in Forest Service because it's so difficult for them. Does that answer your question?
Thanks, Chris. Let's move on to Kelly.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I really enjoyed your presentation. I was looking at the application submitted in PRISM that I'm looking at right now, and under, I have to move something, hang on a second. Under the number of youth served in this program, you talked about Anthony a little bit. And in here, you said that the only difference is that you didn't stop showing up when Anthony skipped meetings, got angry, or didn't meet expectations. So how did you, can you tell me a little bit more about how you didn't stop showing up? What does that mean?
Yeah, Tony is a good example of how the current iteration of this program was born. Tony had the highest number of time served in juvenile hall, and he was having a hard time, and we were providing the community service hour opportunity for him, and he had a hard time with accountability. We're small enough that my colleague, who's also a behavioral health specialist, would just go to his house and knock on his door, and we supported his mother as well, and we would just show up. He wouldn't come, and we'd come to him. And after a while, he not only started having a little more buy-in, but he also brought his friends. And what we learned is you just need that time. You don't solve these things in 90 days or whatever the, Child Protective Services allots. My colleague was also in social service. So, and both our experiences, without that time, especially for this age, nothing really significant happens. There's so much value for these experiences that are one day or a summer or a week. But we had the opportunity, because of our flexibility, our size, a very creative board, to just do something different, and we're doing.
Have you, and I'm sorry, I'm asking a second question. I know we're supposed to do one, but it kind of piggybacks off that. Have you thought about increasing your program by 170%? Are you still going to have the capacity to continue to show up for kids like Anthony?
Yeah, we just hired our 2 first full-time staff. So we're feeling big. We have a staff of 5, but that frees up now our behavioral health specialists to actually focus on the one-on-one that's at the heart of that accountability and that relationship.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, to answer your question. And then because we have a partnership with People for People, who wasn't even on the partnership list, they pay for internships for our youth. So we can plug 3rd-year CULTURESEED youth, get plugged back into the program to help us wrangle the youth, like create that that showing upness. So it's not just us. We involve youth in that, and accountability is built into peer circles. Like, is it because there's stipends also at the end to honor the time that's spent with us? And so is it fair if you're not showing up and you're going to get a stipend that your friend is showing up? They work it out amongst themselves often. That's a part of being youth led. It's not just us, like, we're here to do this good work. So
Well, thank you.
yeah.
Great. Thanks, Kelly. We've got time for one more question, if there's any other questions from the committee. Don't see any. Oh, I do right now. Hi, Michaela.
Hi. Muito obrigada, Carolina. Thank you for such a wonderful presentation. I had a question about how does your program interact with tribes, or how do you incorporate tribal place-based knowledge into your interactions with your youth?
Yeah, so thank you for that question, and 2 different answers. So in the ways that Native American youth are in our program, because they're referred through counselors or teachers or the community members, is because they're in foster care. Our point of contact, I mean, Klickitat is so big, and our distance to Yakima, our closest tribal members in terms of a larger number, is quite big. So we are here as a resource and trying to understand, as Native American youth show up, how we can best create that culturally significant kind of feedback loop with recruiting Native American mentors and so forth. But we're learning. I mean, I'm sitting on a variety of coalitions just to learn in which ways CULTURESEED has anything to add in terms of the place-based knowledge and acknowledgement. Again, we're always learning, but we do bring Native American educators to certain sites, especially Columbia Hills, if we ever go there, to open the circle and provide a story that kind of grounds that experience. But yeah, so much learning. Even of this place, it's humbling. I've only been here for 3 years. A lot of people that work with me have been here their whole lives and also don't feel like they know how to bridge that. So learning.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Michaela. All right. Well, thank you so much for the presentation. Sorry about the little technical issue there. I'm glad we made it work and could share the screen, and it worked out okay. So thank you so much, Carolina, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Kyle. I appreciate. Bye-bye, everyone. Have a great day.
All right, and committee, this brings us to our first break of the morning, and we're a little bit behind, but I'm going to go ahead and bump us back 5 minutes. So why don't we come back at 10:40, and we've got the YMCA of Greater Seattle will bring their presentation at 10:40. So we'll be about 5 minutes behind, give you all enough time to go grab another cup of coffee, go get a snack and stretch a little bit. See you in 10 minutes. Hey, Jeff, are you there?
I am, yes.
How's it going this morning?
Pretty good. How are you?
Excellent. So I know you've got a video that's embedded in one of your earlier slides there.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like I practiced playing it again this morning. It was playing well. The volume's a little bit low on it. And so I'll just once the advisory committee comes back and joins us, I'll give them heads up that they're gonna have to crank the volume up during that video and then remember to crank it back down. Otherwise it'll sound like you're yelling at them. Once you come back.
Great. Well, thanks for testing that out this morning. That's helpful.
No worries. And the other part of that too, Jeff, is gonna be when I'll pass you controls so you can advance the slides. But let's see what happens on the video. If you lose control, you may just have to double click on the screen again to reactivate it.
McGill's actually the one for us who's going to be advancing those things. McGill, you're in here right now, correct?
Yeah, if you can give me control, Kyle, that'd be awesome.
All right, I just passed it over to you, McGill.
Great. So I am going to practice advancing slides and see what kind of a delay we have.
I always recommend practice.
Oh,
am I
have to double click something.
Make sure. Yeah, sure. There we go. Yeah, now you should be able to go. Go ahead and double click the screen.
And is double clicking how I advance or how I just gain control?
Well, you should be able to use your keyboard too. So if you double click with your mouse on that screen, let's see if you can get control.
Okay, says I'm controlling.
And then there you go.
There we go.
All right, so.
I seem pretty quick, McGill.
Yeah, the speed seems pretty quick from the reactions of when I think you're doing it on your end to what I'm seeing in front of me right now. So I think it looks pretty good.
Fantastic. I appreciate the test.
All right, Jeff and McGill. The advisory committee should all be back in their seats because we're going to start right at 10:40. They've got all your application materials in front of them as well in Prism, so they have access to that. You've got 15 minutes for the presentation. That'll be followed up by 10 minutes for Q&A. I'll kind of facilitate that Q&A when it goes through. We will throw a little reminder card up once you have 2 minutes left. Hopefully you've practiced your presentation, you know your timing, but we got to keep it to that as close as we can to the 15 minutes just to give enough time for the evaluators to ask questions. So with that, I'll start a clock on this end and you've got control. Oh, I want to just mention too to the advisory committee that on like the 4th or 5th slide in this presentation, there is a video and the volume is pretty low on the video. So you may have to crank your volume up on your screen. But then remember when that video is over to lower that volume down. Otherwise it's going to sound like Jeff and McGill are yelling at you. So just heads up that it's just the volume on YouTube on that. All right. Feel free to go ahead and begin when you're ready.
Excellent. Well, hello, and thank you for serving on this committee. My name is McGill Dickerson Lang. I'm the Director of Philanthropy for YMCA Outdoor Leadership. And I also want to introduce Jeff Esseltine, Director of Outdoor Leadership, and Robin Childs, Director of Community Engagement. Beyond City Limits is a project of YMCA Bold and Gold, Boys and Girls Outdoor Leadership Development. Beyond City Limits is designed to reduce and remove barriers to the outdoors through wilderness adventure for youth, regardless of experience, ethnicity, or socioeconomic status. This education project will implement and expand programming that is new in response to COVID and in collaboration with our community partners. This project is a 3-tiered outdoor adventure progression Participants will develop self-confidence, courage, wonder for the natural world, emotional intelligence, and community awareness. Beyond City Limits will take place entirely outdoors and on public lands and will serve 2,500 youth with transformative outdoor experiences.
Thank you, Miguel. Hello, I'm Robin Childs. We show the YMCA of Greater Seattle's equity statement alongside the mission as a program of the YMCA. Bold and Gold envisions a world where all young people believe in themselves, value others, and know the power of the outdoors. It inspires courage and leadership in diverse groups through wilderness experiences. Bold and Gold has historically operated 1 to 3 week outdoor trips for youth 11 to 18. On trips, youth backpack, rock climb, and mountaineer while developing leadership skills, emotional intelligence, and courage. The Beyond City Limits project is an expansion of this model designed in response to community feedback and the systemic barriers that prevent youth from experiencing the outdoors. It seeks to improve access to wilderness experiences by creating a program progression that fosters development of outdoor skills, increased confidence, and creates connection with nature. I'll share an experience I had at a meeting with families served by the Horn of Africa. I had a room full of engaged parents as I spoke about Bold and Gold opportunities and could feel the excitement growing. But at one point, a parent said, "Wait, this is overnight?" I said yes, and the whole mood changed. And I said, I'm asking too much, aren't I? And they said yes. So I asked them, what if it was a day trip? With similar experience of just that day, just for a day. The energy immediately went up again as they said yes. From this community conversation and others, we have built out our Beyond City Limits progression. This project will provide 3 tiers of engagement. Tier 1 engages youth in a range of day activities, including hiking, climbing, boating, and snowshoeing, designed to increase comfort with the outdoors. Tier 2 introduces participants to front country camping and week-long program that builds to a one-night backpacking trip. Participants will develop skills and confidence in their ability outdoors. Tier 3 launches participants on our traditional 1 to 2 to 3 week trips. The Beyond City Limits project is addressing the barriers of going from "I've never been outdoors" to a 1-week backpacking trip. During COVID, our collaboration with the Congolese Integration Network, CIN, has served as a pilot and case story for the project we are proposing to expand. In 2019, youth from CIN participated in a day hike, rock climbing, and snowshoeing. COVID delayed some additional trips like a front country camping trip, but 1 week of backpacking on the Olympic coast proceeded in September of 2020. Here we have Providence Kamana from CIN, who'd like to share in his own words how important it's been to them.
My name is Providence Kamana. I'm a youth program manager with the Congolese Integration Network. Here to talk about our partnership with the YMCA and the impact that has had in our youth. And then what are we looking forward to sustain this partnership to serve the refugees and immigrant population that the Congolese Integration Network serve. So it has been really impactful and very positive working with the YMCA, partnering with them into taking our youth to outdoors activities like hiking, rock climbing, and so forth. And this has allowed our youth to build a sense of belonging in this nation and in this land, in the new country. As you know, a lot of refugee youth and immigrants deal with trauma, an extreme level of trauma, and those activities with the YMCA has been really helpful to allowing our youth to build a sense of belonging and as well as heal from the traumatic experiences. So what we're looking forward is to have programs like this sustained, because each season we want to have activities like that, depending on the season. If it's snow, I would say hiking, whatever you want to call it, but road trips and so forth. We want to have those activities to be consistent, that will allow our youth to grow and have a safe space, and kind of just occupy them to stop the school to prison pipeline. So we hope these projects get funded so that we can continue the great work that we are doing with YMCA. Thank you.
When Providence came back, he immediately called me and said, "Oh my goodness, Robin, it was much more than going outside. They're goal setting. I've been trying to do this with them for a year. Let's keep this going."
There you go.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Jeff Esseltine, Director for Outdoor Leadership. With No Child Left Inside support, this project will engage 2,500 youth in outdoor activities over 2 years, representing a 25% annual increase in the number of participants we serve. Youth will spend an average of 80 hours outdoors, with some achieving over 500 hours on our multi-week backpacking trips. In total, youth will spend 300,000 hours outdoors over the course of the Beyond City Limits project. To lead this work, Bold and Gold actively cultivates a diverse instructor team, and demographic data from our most recent program years shared here on this slide. Over the last 3 years, Bold and Gold has seen year-over-year improvement in the representation of its staff, and we're committed to challenging the culture of the outdoor industry and fostering a pipeline of participants to staff that's increasingly representative of the community we serve. The Beyond City Limits project has a 2-year budget of $1.3 million. NCLI funds and our match will be directed towards staffing, supplies like curriculum materials and activity gear, transportation, so buses and boat shuttles, as well as lodging and meals, which for us is campsites and trip food. Our match funds come from a mix of philanthropy as well as program fees.
This project's effectiveness will be measured through reflection activities and written evaluation using tools designed by evaluation professionals. Our extensive post-trip evaluation has proven to be the most direct indicator of participant growth. They provide feedback on their change in attitudes, awareness of the natural world, growth in leadership abilities, and self-esteem. Participant feedback, parent assessments, and debriefs with partners all significantly influence program improvements. In 2020, we received a 100% Net Promoter Score. This means all of our parents and participant parents and caregivers rated our programs as most highly likely to recommend to others. And we are extremely excited about that.
I want to briefly touch on our culture of risk management and COVID management. Bold and Gold had served hundreds of youth in 2020 without a reported case of COVID-19. And while this slide outlines some of the specifics, the resulting sense of physical and emotional safety is best summed up by one participant. They said, "My trip was truly amazing. Even with everything going on all over the world, my trip allowed me a chance to get away from it all and have fun. Every day I would laugh so hard I got stomach cramps. The staff were so much fun and gave us so many chances to try new things and learn new skills. They also made me feel safe by wearing masks, distancing, and all the other precautions. Thank you to all who made this trip possible." This map shows where our 2019 Bold and Gold participants live, and Beyond City Limits will engage youth 8 to 18 that live across Washington and primarily in the Puget Sound area. Recruitment. This project will build on the experience and the tools of Bold and Gold programming. We intentionally and actively recruit from a diversity of communities in partnership with community-based organizations. Our partners have a breadth of focus, including college prep, immigrants, military families, and schools. Instead of relying on participants to find the program, our engagement team goes into the communities and builds long-term relationships with families, schools, and these organizations. This approach supports youth and families from before registration all the way through the program's closing circle. And you'll see from the pie graph there, fundamental to our recruitment is our unique enrollment model. On each trip, we strive to have 1/3 of participants pay the full fee, 1/3 receive partial financial aid, and 1/3 receive full financial aid. And therefore, on every trip, there's a diversity of lived experiences. When we're recruiting, we're able to immediately remove the financial barrier and identify and address additional barriers.
Yes, outreach is one part of recruitment, and consistently identifying and removing barriers to participation is central to our long-term community relationship building. We collect feedback from the community so we can design and implement more equitable and inclusive approaches. Cost, gear, dietary restrictions, and religious practices are just a few of the reasons youth decline to participate in outdoor programs. We actively work to reduce or remove these barriers. I often say, think of a reason why you can't do this, and now take it away. And we mean that. There is a full library of outdoor gear that can outfit anyone from head to toe with the clothing and equipment needed for a day hike or a summit attempt of Mount Baker. A flexible approach to meal planning, curriculum design, and program scheduling allows BCL to accommodate restrictive diets, transportation to our base camp, and religious needs. For example, trail breaks to allow for Muslim prayer, or leave no trace approaches to creating a shrine. The Beyond City Limits project will strive to engage an audience that is similar to Bold and Gold's traditional participant community. We currently serve a diverse audience of youth ages 11 to 18, and the Beyond City Limits project will expand to include ages 8 to 18. 39% of participants self-report as people of color. Our emphasis on removing barriers means financial aid applications are not required to participate. All demographics are self-reported, and no services are withheld if that information is not provided. An average of 45% of participants are on free or reduced lunch, but at any season, it could be as high as 65 or 66%. We estimate that 10% are English language learners. Based on health information gathered before trips, we are seeing an increasing trend of diagnosed anxiety and adverse childhood experiences, and estimate that approximately 11% of the participants are youth with disabilities.
Partnerships are core to Bold and Gold. Our work with land managers, financial supporters, and program partners is the foundation of our success. They invite us into their offices, their homes, and their places of worship. We're fortunate to have longstanding relationships with every school district in King County, dozens of local nonprofits, as well as a network of YMCAs across Washington. These partnerships take significant work to establish, but once initiated, our partners are as committed to us as we are to them. They see the value of our program when a young person returns from a trip more empathetic, resilient, and resourceful. As a demonstration of the strength of our partnerships, the Treeline Foundation, the Nature Project, Summer Search, and Congolese Integration Network have provided letters of commitment for the Beyond City Limits project. Bold and Gold has built a sustainable foundation powered by the backing of the Y and the support of our partners. This project will be sustained beyond the initial No Child Left Inside grant through private philanthropy, in-kind donations, and program fees. The hundreds and thousands of dollars in financial aid we provide each year are thanks to a committed group of foundations and individuals. They not only see the value of engaging youth in outdoor experiences, but see that Bold and Gold does this in a unique and transformative way. Industry partners at Outdoor Research, Cascade Designs, and more provide reduced cost or free access to technical trainings as well. The implementation of this project is going to reduce barriers to the outdoors and ensure thousands of young people experience Washington's public lands. Bold and Gold operates exclusively on public lands and works closely with Washington State Parks, DNR, the Forest Service, and the National Park Service to ensure access, organize educational experiences, and provide service opportunities for youth. We start and end all of our trips at our base camp at Cascade Park in Seattle, and from there, small groups travel across Washington to visit public lands and access amazing outdoor spaces. Nearly 30 state parks throughout Washington will be utilized as the primary venue for hiking, boating, climbing, and front country camping, as 2,500 youth spend over 300,000 hours outdoors on our state's public lands. Bold and Gold strives to ensure that youth return from their experience, understanding that these lands are theirs and they can access and enjoy them for the rest of their lives. Thank you very much. And what questions do you all have?
All right, great. Thank you so much, Jeff, McGill, and Robin. That was great. Robin, you just popped up from nowhere. I wasn't even expecting you to be there. So great job. All right, questions from the committee. Let's start with Melinda Posner with State Parks.
Hi, thank you. Really great presentation. Question about letters of commitment. Are those direct dollars that are committed to your program?
It's a mix. So our letters of commitment, some of them are funders and philanthropy based. Others of them, like the Congolese Integration Network, are more focused on partnering to continue to engage young people that they serve in this program and project.
Okay, thank you.
All right, let's see. I saw Chris, I thought I saw your hand up. Do you still have a question?
I do. Just a quick one. Hi, Robin. Hi, Jeff. Hi, Miguel. So my question is about this specific program and how it relates to Bold and Gold. From my understanding, and I might have missed it earlier in the presentation, but this will be like an extension or an expansion of Bold and Gold, kind of like in the beginning, trying to get people into like kind of like a pipeline into the Bold and Gold programs, and more, you know, starting with like day trips or shorter trips, then like going into the more standard Bold and Gold multi-day backpacking trips. Is that correct?
It is, yes, Chris. So historically, Bold and Gold's operated 1 to 3 week backpacking, rock climbing trips over the summer. Our experience has informed us, and we know this from working with community partners, that there are significant barriers to jumping from no outdoor experience to a multi-night overnight trip. So the Beyond City Limits project is going to introduce a 3-tier system. So the first tier is single day outdoor activities to kind of build comfort with the outdoors and honestly build relationships between us and these families. And the second tier is really introducing folks into front country and overnight camping. And then moving in the direction, if there's the comfort and those relationships progress, that they will take part in a 1-week program that will have a single night of backpacking as its culminating event. But ultimately, we're viewing this as a pipeline or a river in which folks have opportunities to enter and exit based on their comfort level. And the Congolese Integration Network story, I think, is really informative in regards to the way that we kind of built this in conjunction with partners in a way that worked not only for them, but for us as well.
Thank you.
Let's see other questions from the committee. Thanks, Chris. All right, I'm not seeing any other questions. That means that your presentation covered all of the questions that they would have. So great job on your presentation. And we'll see you soon. Thank you, Jeff and Robin and McGill.
Thanks,
Excellent.
everyone.
Thank
Really appreciate
you.
the time.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Bye.
All right, and moving on to our next project. We have the Yakima Valley Farm Workers. I believe, Salvador, you are on. I see you now, Salvador.
Good morning. How you doing, Kyle?
I'm doing very well. Nice to see you. Sorry we couldn't be in person this year.
It's definitely been a challenging year for us with the in-person versus virtual. So.
All right, so Salvador, I can pass you the controls so that you can advance the slides.
Okay.
Go ahead and take your mouse and just double click there. And then you can, yep, you've got it. And you can use your keyboard arrows to advance forward and backwards as well.
Okay.
There's a little bit of a delay, but it's not too bad right now. So it's pretty close to being when you advance them. You've got 15 minutes for the presentation, as you know. That'll be followed up by 10 minutes for Q&A. We'll give you a little reminder when you get close to 15 minutes. We got a 2 minutes left card that my colleague Chris will flash on the screen, so you'll see a little video come up. And so feel free to go ahead and introduce yourself and begin when you're ready.
Okay, will do. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for your time today. My name is Salvador Cobar. I am the program coordinator with the Northwest Community Action Center, a subdivision of the Yakima Valley Farm Workers Clinic. In the past, I have run the outdoor adventure program here, and it's a program that we've been able to sustain through our 21st century programs, which I'll talk about a little bit later. Let me introduce you to our program. Our outdoor adventure program is an after-school program that aims to provide meaningful outdoor experiences for youth who have little or no access to Washington state parks and national parks. We provide services to 980 low-income at-risk youth, and 94% qualify for free and reduced lunch. The goal is to engage students in recreational learning experiences that promote personal responsibility and improve academic performance through a variety of activities, including hiking, camping, swimming, backpacking, outdoor cooking, and environmental outdoor education. The program will take place on public lands throughout Yakima County, state parks, and national parks. NCAC has developed a COVID-19 in-person safety protocol to ensure the safety of our staff and students. These protocols include temperature checks, self-attestation forms for staff and youth daily, contact tracing, and masks will be worn by all staff and youth for all indoor and outdoor activities. Hand sanitizer will be available at all sites, on the bus, and on all outdoor excursions. Staff will ensure that all students maintain social distancing guidelines in the classroom as well as outdoors. The policy is inclusive of health department guidelines and school district protocols. In addition, the policy is adaptive as the situation continues to evolve. NCAC's mission is to create a measurable change that will empower at-risk and economically disadvantaged individuals and families to achieve a greater level of self-sufficiency by engaging the local communities and business through advocacy and coordination of economic, educational, social, employment, and human resources. Outdoor Adventures' mission is to engage the students in recreational learning experience that promote personal health and responsibility, improve academic performance, and encourage social and emotional growth. At minimum, students will spend 24 hours of classroom time and at least 46 hours outdoors, participating in activities such as hiking, camping, swimming, outdoor cooking, snowshoeing, and nature exploration. Over 70 hours per youth, over 950 youth served, over 65,000 hours of service to youth. Classroom time will include lessons such as the 10 hiking essentials, how to tie knots, setting up a tent, basic fishing skills, how to start a campfire, water filtration, trail nutrition, how to use a compass and a map. Activities will take place in locations such as Ocean Shores, Mount Rainier National Park, Columbia Gorge, the Wenatchee National Forest, Upper and Lower Yakima Rivers, Yakima Canyon, Ahana-Pakash, and many others. Funding will cover staffing, equipment needs, tents, sleeping bags, propane, firewood, etc., park fees and permits, equipment rentals, transportation, groceries for cooking lessons, and overnight excursions. How do we measure success? We will conduct pre and post surveys of participants, chaperones, staff, and partners. The following outcomes are measured: academic success, healthy lifestyles, ecological knowledge, and emotional well-being. True success is seen in the experience of the children. Here are messages from the youth impacted by our program. Thank you, Ms. Veach, for letting me go to Ocean Shores, because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to go, and I hope I get the opportunity to experience that wonderful place. I had so much fun. Something I loved about the trip was our last day when we went to the beach. I loved the beach because the water was so nice and the rock climbing was fun. It was my first time to the beach, and if it wasn't for you, I would have never had such a great experience. Those words speak to the success of the program. Here's some photos of excursions that we have had. Kids like to fish, opportunity to fish now on the ocean, bringing their gear with them or gear that we provide for them. Silver Falls Trail up in Mount Rainier. Beautiful experience, easy enough hike for so many kids, and being able to go to the Grove of the Patriarchs. Going over to the peninsula, the opportunity, many of our youth have never been on a state ferry, don't know that the state ferry system exists, and the opportunity to cross the Puget Sound on the ferry is a once in a lifetime for a lot of these youth. The old Pipeline Bed Trail near Leavenworth, great opportunity, easy trail for youth of younger ages. An opportunity for them, as you can see there, learning how to filter water so they can have drinking water. Snow experience, being able to go sledding in some of the snow parks, but more importantly, how about snowshoeing? An opportunity that is never thought of for some of these youth, and getting them out on snowshoes is quite an experience. Exploring the shore here, you see at Fort Worden, great opportunity to go through and see and explore an area that, again, these youth have not seen before as they travel to the peninsula. We serve over 980 low-income at-risk youth living in the lower Yakima Valley. Our service area includes the communities of White Swan, Para, Wapato, Parker, Toppenish, Buena, Zilla, Outlook, Granger, Grandview, and Sunnyside. 4 of these communities are located on the Yakima Nation tribal land. Participants range in age from 5 through 18, with 70% of them being in elementary school, 24% in middle school, and 6% in high school. Oops, one too many slides there. 92% of the youth that we serve are youth of color. 66% are English language learners. 7% are youth with disabilities. All 980 plus youth face socioeconomic disparities that make them more likely to engage in high-risk behaviors. Participants face many barriers in regards to the outdoor program. Parents of the lower valley youth often work in the fields from sunup to sundown 7 days a week, and or hold multiple jobs in order to put food on the table and keep a roof over their heads. When faced with the concrete reality of poverty, food insecurity, gang violence, and homelessness, youth have a hard enough time staying in school, let alone exploring Yakima's beautiful lands in the surrounding state national parks. We give these youth that opportunity, an opportunity they would not have otherwise, a chance to explore the beautiful and abundant natural sources of our county and state. We partner with the school districts that you see listed on the slide here. And we also partner with the 21st Century Programs, and both have agreed to collaborate with us on this project by offering in-kind contributions in the form of classroom space, outdoor space, gymnasium space, USDA snacks, janitorial service, and some transportation services. The Farm Workers Clinic is a well-established organization that has developed and expanded tremendously since its inception. YVFWC has extensive experience in designing, establishing, and sustaining programs, including the Northwest Community Action Center. Our 21st Century Programs continue to offer outdoor experiences for youth in their programs. Funding from NCLI will allow us to increase the number of eligible participants without sacrificing the quality of experience. Uh-oh. Program aims to maximize the time students spend outside through activities that take place in Washington state parks or other local public lands. These experiences are critical to developing youth appreciation of our state's diverse natural and cultural heritage. We will utilize several state parks and national parks to support activities, including Yakima Sportsman State Park, Fort Simcoe, Maryhill, Beacon Hill, Ocean City, Griffith's Pride Day, and Mount St. Helens State Park. We'll also utilize education and guidance provided by recreational professionals with firsthand knowledge and experience in the outdoor professions. They will be able to guide trips. They will be able to teach lessons, discuss their careers, and offer guidance to our youth. Just an opportunity to share the fun that comes with being a ranger. While it may be hard, stressful work, it's a career path that many of our youth may not know about or be aware of. And I think I'm ahead of schedule here, Kyle. So thank you. And what questions do you guys have for me?
Great. Thank you, Salvador. Yeah, you were just concise in the criteria. So questions from the committee? All right, looks like we have a question. Let's start with Melinda Posner, State Parks.
Hi, thank you very much for your presentation. My question is about the program. I'm not sure I heard you say what the children that are served, they're engaged in a lot of activities. Is that a week-long program or consecutive visits over a period of the summer? Can you say a little more about that?
So we will be partnering with our 21st century programs in the schools to run program through the summer and also year long through the school year. So with summer, we have the ability to do more trips, more lessons with them and prepare them for the trips, do some overnight camping with them. And then as we head into the winter, in the fall and the winter, we will have day experiences for them. And again, there'll be classroom lessons to prep them. If we're going to take them up into Mount Rainier during the snow, for example, we've got to teach them how to be safe in the snow, what gear to pack, giving them opportunities to experience something like snowshoeing requires more than just here, put the snowshoes on, let's go. What's the first aid involved? How do you need to be aware to stay warm and be safe? So it's an ongoing program with a focus on summer, but it will continue through the entire school year into next summer and the following school year.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thanks, Melinda. Let's move on to Raina from Camp Bosite.
Thank you so much for a great and concise presentation. It's really awesome to learn about your program. I'm just curious how the participants are selected to be able to be a part of this program.
We have built in right now 15 sites of 21st century programs that have recruited already. So we will target those youth and then expand our recruitment into the rest of the schools or the rest of the school population in order to ensure that everyone has an opportunity. They don't have to be part of 21st century to participate, but we will expand so that others can participate.
Is there a level of criteria within the 21st century program world, or how does that kind of play out?
There is no criteria. Typically, we focus on the youth that need the most help or most assistance at the time to offer them these opportunities.
Amazing work that you guys do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Raina. Any other questions from the committee? All right, well, I'm not seeing any other questions, Salvador, so really appreciate you taking the time. A little bit easier than making the drive over to Olympia this year.
Yes, but it is a beautiful drive, especially if you go, over Snoqualmie. So,
well, appreciate it, and then also appreciate your work on the advisory committee. So we will, we'll see you soon, and thank you.
Thank you again. Thank you, everyone, for your service and your commitment.
All right, we are going to move on to Islandwood up next. All right, let me hold on. Let me just make sure I am, because I know we've got some video in this one. Make sure that we are sharing the sound and the video is optimized, which it is. All right, so we've got Megan. Megan, are you presenting solo? I saw there's a few presenters on your list potentially.
Yeah, I am presenting with John Haskin, our VP of Education, our Senior VP of Education.
Okay, I saw John was in the meeting as well. So welcome to both of you. And who would like to advance slides? Who would you like me to?
I'd be happy to advance the slides.
Okay. All right, I just passed you controls, Megan. If you want to just double click on that screen and establish the control, you can.
Great.
And then you can use your arrows to advance as well. And just to give heads up to the evaluators, there is a video component on this presentation. And so you may have to adjust the volume when we get to that particular slide here. I think it's early on in the presentation, right, Megan?
Yes, it is. Thank you, Kyle.
All right, so Megan, you've got 15 minutes. We'll give you a little reminder once you get close. If you're close to that 15, you'll see a video pop up with a card that says 2 minutes remaining. And then if we're beyond 15, you'll see my video pop up and I'll ask you to wrap it up. So we want to make sure we give the evaluation panel enough time to ask questions for that 10-minute segment, okay?
Great.
All right, excellent. So feel free to introduce yourself and begin when you're ready.
Well, thank you, Kyle. As I said, my name is Megan Karch. I'm the CEO here at Islandwood, and our mission is to inspire the next generation of environmental stewards. And we do that 2 ways. One is providing experiences for children in nature around education. And the second is by partnering with both pre and post educators, folks that are entering the field and also in the field. Today, we're going to talk about a specific program, our school overnight program. And before I do, I did want to start with a video. And it's a short, oops. Let's see if I can now get back. My arrows aren't giving me the ability. Oh, there we go. Let's see if I can. If I click, should go straight to the video. Well, folks, I'm just going to move past the video because I don't think it's starting for us.
Hold on a second.
We believe it's not about getting.
I don't know why it didn't pop up. Let's go back. It should, the little bar showed up this morning on it, but I have it right here.
Okay.
I can just drag it onto the screen for you.
Oh, okay, great, thanks.
We believe it's not about getting back to normal. The scope of what we face is enormous. A long-standing history of racial inequity. An acceleration of climate change that cannot be denied. A pandemic with devastating effects for our young people. It's about a new, better, more inspiring normal. A normal where all voices are valued, where everyone has the opportunity to thrive, where the best solutions come from listening, understanding, and being in relationship to those around us. Where teachers. We believe it's not about in meaningful learning, where every child has the opportunity to learn about and experience the environment that surrounds them. And it's not only about the next generation, it's also about this generation. This generation of educators. This generation of parents. This generation of children. It's not about getting back to normal. It's about creating a new normal.
Well, great. Well, thank you. So we are indeed busy at getting back to new normal. When the pandemic hit 14 months ago, all of our in-person programs closed. And we pivoted quickly to doing online programming, being there for children, being there for parents, and being there for teachers. But there's one program that's actually remained closed for 14 months. And it's been our foundational program, which is our school overnight program. It's a 4-day, 3-night program. And what this grant does is it helps us restart it, redesign it, and get it going again. And so I'm going to turn it over to John, who's going to talk a little bit about what the school overnight program is.
Thanks, Megan. Thanks so much. And thanks to all of you on the committee. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. As Megan said, my name is John Haskin, and I was actually trained as an elementary classroom teacher, but I've spent the last 40 years directing residential environmental learning programs for schools across the country. And the last 13 years have been here at Islandwood. The reason that I chose this path for my career is because I realized the unique opportunities that these sustained intensive learning experiences provide students and their teachers. Specifically now at Islandwood, it's about providing real-world context and hands-on learning experiences in the outdoors with students from a wide range of communities throughout the Puget Sound region. The school overnight program includes 30 hours of direct learning experiences in the outdoors for every student participating in our 4-day, 3-night program. And the video we just got to see shows I think a good job of showing what the program and the site looks like. But I want to tell you just a little bit more about what our program feels like for our students. And we have a little over 4,000 students a year during a normal year. For some of the students, a residential environmental learning experience can be filled with firsts. First time on a ferry, first time away from home, different food, different place to sleep, and of course, a very different learning environment. For some of these students, these firsts can produce anxiety. Being outdoors for some of these kids in nature in a wooded area can produce anxiety. We found that managing these potential anxieties is a really important prerequisite for our learning in the school overnight program. Because half of our students in schools that attend the school overnight program have a free and reduced percentage of over 30%. Not every child that attends has clothing that will keep them warm and dry during the outdoor classroom. So we have a gear library where students can check out fleece and rain pants and gloves so that they can stay comfortable learning outdoors. Now, a typical day of learning at Islandwood begins about 9 in the morning after breakfast. All the students and teachers gather together who are visiting us that week. They all come together in the friendship circle and they get centered on a learning theme for the day. And then the remainder of the day is spent in small learning teams of 10 to 12 students. Each field group has an instructor who's also a University of Washington graduate student who's pursuing a master's in education, as well as a teacher or chaperone from the visiting school. And each field group stays together from 9:15 until 4:30 in the afternoon throughout the woods and on our forest areas. They bring their lunch with them and they use our 255-acre classroom to explore, build science understanding through practice and problem-solving activities. All our science instruction aligns with the next generation science standards, and it's about working together to build curiosity, learning to ask questions, and pursue answers. While our school overnight program is just 4 days out of one school year, many past participants return to us as adults and tell us about the impact these experiences had on their worldview and their career choices. You can advance, Megan. Next slide is yours, Megan. I think you're muted, Megan.
I want to do a quick review of the stats. As John said, we typically serve about 4,000 youth a year. What it looks like over the next 2 years is we don't expect it to come back right away. We expect a ramp up, but we already have 2,000 kids in over 56 schools signed up for next year, which is a really good sign. Our budget is $2.3 million. Our request of this is $150,000. Our match to that is $2.15. As John said, it's a 4-day, 3-night program. The instructors are typically our graduate students. There are 28% of them are people of color for the next class coming in, 86% women, 14% men, 7% non-binary. Our curriculum is through the next generation science standards, and we evaluate our program rigorously, both during, immediately after, and 3 to 5 months post. And I wanted John to talk a little bit about what that evaluation looks like.
Thanks, Megan. Yeah, you bet.
Sorry, there's a little bit of a delay, so.
Okay, no worries. I'll just start. When I arrived at Islandwood, we were using a standard end of program feedback form that probably a lot of you have used before. And this type of feedback is great at capturing problems with things like food service and housing, things that are just to be tweaked and so forth. But it really doesn't help us understand how the program may have impacted the students. So we set up a delayed post-program assessment that we send to teachers 6 or more weeks after the program. We want to know if they observe evidence that students' interest in science is sustained in areas such as those that are listed on the slide that is up right now. If students are still using key vocabulary terms, we want to know that. We want to know if the program may have impacted their classroom culture and their student engagement. And the nice thing is that we actually get a really high return on these post-program assessments, because once teachers complete the online assessment form, we then unlock all the pictures that we took of their students during their time at Islandwood. And the teachers use this to communicate with their parents and so forth. Our team then holds a twice-yearly data dive to look at the trends in the areas and to improve our programs. We can advance.
I'm working on it. Yep.
Great. I want to tell you just a little bit about the youth that we get to serve. As Megan has already touched on some of this, and you can see the data on the slide, but just briefly, our school overnight program serves upper elementary and occasionally middle school students. We have, as you can see on the slide, made a commitment to provide programs to schools from across demographics. And that is schools that would be thought of as high needs or low opportunity schools, and schools that also come from very high opportunity areas. We also recognize that all children are in need of high quality outdoor learning experiences, particularly now after the sustained isolation and disruption we've had in the last year. So we think this is important work for us to be doing and for all kids to have. Looking at the map, you'll see the primary reach of our programs. This includes our school overnight program, which are identified as little crescent moons on the slide, and also as our urban school programs team that does work throughout the region as well. Our schools for the school overnight program comes, about 95% of our schools come from the regions that you're seeing here in the Puget Sound area. We do have some outliers, but probably 95%. What's important about this blending of our two programs, a little over 30% of our school overnight program schools that come for a 4-day program also get an urban school programs experience that's done in their schoolyard or in their nearby nature. And that helps to extend the learning, to reinforce the able to have sustained relationships with our schools. Which leads me to think a little bit about our partnerships. And the organizations on the left side are some examples of partnerships, but I want you to know that we partner closely with each of the 90 schools that attend our school overnight program to tailor student learning experiences that best meet their needs. We have partnered with the University of Washington to explore the impact of our non-traditional learning experiences in the school overnight program and how they impact young girls of color. We've also partnered with the Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction, OSPI, during the adoption of next generation science standards. We were key partners in that process. So another and very interesting partnership that we have has been our work with regional artists. Throughout the school overnight program year, we invite a different local artist to come in and be an artist in residence for a week. The art from these people varies from drawing to dance to songwriting to African drumming to basket weaving. And all these artists, what they have in common is a theme of nature that is part of their expression and fits beautifully in our program and helps to create different ways of knowing for our students. And Megan, back to you.
Thanks. I want to talk a little bit about the sustainability model. The program costs are $2.3 million over a 2-year period. And those costs typically come from school fees, philanthropy, and income on an annual basis. Philanthropy is through all of our fundraising efforts. Social enterprise is through our events and conferences that we run. This first year, we expect 50% to come from school fees, and the rest needs to come from philanthropy and social enterprise. When we're fully up and running, it will be more like school fees will be 70%, and the 30% is philanthropy and social enterprise, which is how we've run in the past. But we do know that as we ramp up, it will be more costly than when we're operating on an annual basis, when it's post-COVID.
So the school overnight program at Islandwood is primarily place-based. We use our 255-acre site as our outdoor classroom, but we are adjacent immediately on our property to a Bainbridge Island Park, Blakely Harbor Park. And what's notable about this area, and we use it extensively in our program, is because our 255-acre site is actually a sustained watershed, going from a bog to a marsh to a pond to a stream and out to the harbor. So students can see that whole watershed work in action. When we come down to the harbor, it's a rich learning experience for many of our students who have, although they're from the Seattle region, no experience playing around these tidal areas. And also, this harbor, where it used to be the home of the Blakely Mill, which was a huge log mill in the 100 years ago or so. And that provides an opportunity for us to dig into the history of our region and opportunities to look for artifacts as well, which is always fun. So this is an extensive park that we use for our programs.
And that is the end of our presentation, and we are open for questions. I apologize for all the glitches.
Great. Sorry. Yeah. Thanks, Megan. Here, I can put your slideshow back up in case anyone is fighting you for the controls back there at the end. Yeah, and sorry about the video part. Do we have questions from the committee? Let's see, we'll give them a few seconds here. I'm sure there's going to be a question or two that pop up. Hey, Megan, can you stop moving the mouse for a second?
Yeah, sorry about that.
No worries. All right, any questions? Yes, we're going to start with Raina from Camp Bosite.
Megan and John, thank you so much for everything that you do and a great presentation, even sliding through with all the glitches. Totally get it. Yay for technology. Can you explain just a little bit more to the committee about like your total operating expenses for this program and like how you're scholarshiping your schools to come in? I'd love to hear a little bit more about the work that you guys are doing, obviously, but how that translates into some dollar amounts for what is being offered to provide to get these schools to you from kind of that campership scholarship side and how you guys are doing that.
Sure. So we provide a sliding scale for all schools based on their free and reduced lunch. And then, so we scholarship based on that for every school, a sliding scale. And so it goes up to $350 a week and goes down to almost free. We fully scholarship. So in the budget, over $400,000 annually is spent on scholarships alone. And that's really to provide the ability for kids that otherwise would not have the access into the program. There is a significant amount in our budget for food and lodging. So in the budget, I realize it's listed as other, and then you see an area of food. The food in that budget is primarily only saying what it costs us to pay a food provider to bring us the food. It doesn't cover the labor and other pieces. So that's all within other. And so food and lodging together over a 2-year period is about $770,000 of the cost.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Raina. Other questions from the committee for Megan and John? All right, I do not think I'm seeing any other questions at this time. So, oh, we do. Chris just popped one in right at the end. You just barely got it up there in time, Chris. So good job getting it up in time.
Yeah, I just have a really quick question, and it's about partnerships. And I was wondering, other than the partnerships that you have with school districts and Washington School for the Blind, I was wondering if you work with or collaborate with other groups that do specialize in outdoor education who might have less access to resources and who might not have the capacity to fundraise, and whether you collaborate with and support these other organizations.
You mean other organizations that do similar outdoor education work?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I sit, we do that in a number of ways, actually, but I sit on a coalition called Outdoor School for All on an initiative, which we're putting a significant time into. And matter of fact, we had a huge win this year where the legislature has put money towards outdoor education so schools can afford to pay fees. And it's $10 million that we won from Olympia. And so I do that as a part of a coalition, and we share knowledge about each other. We also sit on the E3, on E3, which is in that area we sit and we provide content. We go to the conference, we provide content to each other. And so there are a number of different ways, and I'm sure John has more to add to that.
Yeah, if it's okay, I would just like to add one other thing for Chris, which is a little different. A few years ago, we had a number of schools from the south side of Seattle that were anticipating a large number of students that were going to attend, and they came with a much smaller number, and we reached out to them to find out, and it ended up that a lot of the students who were refugees, Somalian refugees, the parents weren't sending their kids because they didn't like the idea of the girls being away or and so forth. But so we wanted to reassure them that it was both a safe and enriching experience. So we actually reached out, and one of our staff members joined the Somali women's group, the mothers group, and we just joined and partnered with them over time. And it resulted in us seeing a huge influx of those participants coming and being part of our gaining confidence in our programs and the way we were approaching our work. And I think that sort of partnership for us was kind of a non-traditional approach, rather than working just with the schools, but working with the local clergy and the families that are in the region to help them understand how the program fits into their children's educational experience. So that's been those sorts of experiences are an important part of our partnership profile as well. Thanks for that question, Chris.
Yeah.
Raina, it looked like you had another question.
I do. I'm curious about, you guys have 16.5% in your numbers for disabilities. I'd love to know about what kind of disabilities are served and what kind of accommodations you are able to offer for your students that are coming and participating.
Yep. Is it okay for me to jump in, Megan?
Yeah, jump right in, John.
So all of our public schools will mainstream students with different learning needs. And so our campus, first off, is set up. The pathways throughout the campus are wide enough for wheelchairs, and we often have schools that come with mobility challenges and so forth, whether that's in crutches or it's in wheelchairs. And while there's hills on the campus, there's the paths are paved in ways that are well secured for that sort of mobility challenges. And we also have students and schools that will come with different learning challenges and opportunities. And so we ask that schools will bring an aide along with us at those times, and that we know that ahead of time so that we can bring those students in and mainstream them as part of every learning group, so they don't have a separate group to themselves. But our instructors are prepped so that we have ideas of how to best integrate those kids into the learning experience. These outdoor learning experiences, as all of you in the window know, are so great for kids with autism or other sorts of challenges around ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, because of the high amount of sensory experiences that we can shelter, in a sense, bring them into quiet spaces where we can encourage touching of natural objects and quiet questioning. And those sorts of environments have seemed to work really well. And all our grad students have extensive training in how to work with these special needs children. They're not getting special ed degrees, but many of them have an interest, and we prep them for that sort of work. So that's a great question, Raina, and it comes up every single week, and I'm so glad you asked it.
And the only other thing I would add to that, which was fantastic, is we also have worked with specific schools that serve primarily children with a disability, in particular, Washington School for the Blind. And in that case, we really looked at the curriculum for how we could modify it to really fit well with that entire group and that school specifically.
Awesome. Thank you very much for all of that. That's great.
All right, thank you so much, Megan and Jonna. I don't see any other questions from the committee, so great job in your presentation, and sorry about the little video glitch. I'm still not sure why it didn't work when you clicked on it, but it worked on this end. But
well, it's probably user error, and I should know better than to put a video in. It always complicates things. So.
Yeah, it's all right. We're all going to be experts at it in a few years, so we're already becoming experts at it. So. Nice job.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All righty. So team, this brings us to lunchtime, and we are back on schedule. In fact, we're slightly ahead of schedule, which is great. Gives you a little more time for lunch. We will be picking back up right at 11:50 when we return. So maybe try to get back at 1:45. When you do come back, maybe flip your camera on so I know everybody is back and ready for the next presentation to begin in the afternoon. Enjoy your lunch, and we'll see you in about an hour.
Hey, Kyle, are you still there?
I am. Hey, Melinda.
Hey, I sent